I'm Danielle with Heartland Song Network, and I am here today with our March Artist of the Month, Erin Keller. Hi, Erin. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great.
It's great to see you and meet you. I've got your bio here, and I could read it verbatim back to you, but I'd love to hear in your own words how you describe the music you make and the work you do.
Okay. Um, well, the music I make is very particular to what I believe in and the values that I hold dear. I grew up Unitarian and I grew up liberal and I grew up with my mother was heavily involved in like the Democratic Party and my father was an atheist, is still an atheist. And so my music is about politics and it's about the world and it's about what's going on and how we can deal with it as rational, logical people and how we can feel the way that we feel and not feel like we're alone and experiencing all of the chaos of the world and the difficult things that we face day to day and hear on the news and all of that. So, my music is about what's going on right now in the world, and I feel like well, Nina Simone said something along the lines of, if you're not reflecting what's going on in the world, then you're not really being an artist. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And so that's what I try to do in my music.
Fantastic. And thank you for the work you're doing. We, as humans of the world, need, somebody to be talking about it and someone to be sharing it with us so we know we're not alone. Um, you are also a jazz singer, to put it more simply. Is that how you kind of genreify yourself?
Yeah, I love jazz. Jazz is like the hardest thing in the world. it's it's very idiosyncratic to its own thing. I had a partner who said that jazz is music for musicians, and I thought, well,
Mm.
yeah, we get to have our own music too. I mean, come on, that's awesome. um, and it's beautiful, it's fun, it can be very provocative and evocative and it's challenging musically, like harmonically and technically. And so I really love working in the idiom of jazz and love learning new jazz songs and going to jam sessions and singing gigs and all of that.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, it is music for musicians. That's a really great way to put it. Let's
Mhm.
talk about your singing style, which is very unique. Um, your bio describes it as at times more instrumental than vocal. And when I first read that, I didn't quite know what that meant. And then when I heard more and more of your music, I was like, yes, this makes sense. How long have you been singing this way, and what steps did it feel like you went through to develop your true vocal style?
Well, when I was growing up, my sister was a jazz bass player. She's 6 years older than me, and when she was in high school, she was like one of the top jazz bass players in Des Moines, Iowa. And so she was gigging and going to school, and we never saw her. She was just always gone. And but she listened to a lot of music in the home when she was home, and I listened to a lot of instrumental jazz, and I sang along with it. And she encouraged me to sing along with it as a part of learning how to sing. I was also singing in a children's choir, and I was already singing a lot at that point. And so it was just like another avenue to explore of like challenging repertoire to experience and learn by ear as opposed to learning from reading music, which was what I was mostly doing because I was already playing piano and singing in the choir, like I mentioned. So yeah, I think I've been singing this way for a long time, and um, I I really admire people who can improvise words when they sing. I have a really hard time doing that. That's not something that I excel at all. But I can pretend to be a trumpet and, all day and all night. So that's not a problem for me. So yeah,
Part human, part trumpet.
yes. Yeah. So I really enjoy just exploring melody, melodic concepts, and melodic contour and line phrasing and all those kinds of musical ideas. And I leave the words to the lyricists and to the songwriters. I don't try to make up words on the spot, but I really admire people who can do that. It's really cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned siblings who play music, starting piano young. I
Hmm.
assume that means you had a young entrance. And were there any like mentors or people you look up to in your musical journey and upbringing that like you still see their faces and have gratitude towards them?
Yeah, absolutely. My children's choir director, Eugene Wilson, he was incredible. He was not the nicest man. Um, he was kind of crazy. He had really high expectations for us as kids, even. But we sang really difficult music that I sang again when I was in college. So I was already singing, college level repertoire at age 8 to 13 in this children's choir. And we toured internationally and we competed internationally and we won. And we hosted choirs from all over the world. We hosted an African children's choir festival, and I met uh, children from Africa and hosted children from Africa in my home, and sang with them, and just had like really mind blowing, amazing experiences from a very early age in music. And then I had a piano teacher kind of on the end of that, and then going into high school, named Jamie Polson, who's still based in Des Moines, who taught me a lot of music theory and a lot about jazz and a lot about classical music and technique and writing music. And I didn't practice as much as I should have. I was not, because I was a straight A student and I was involved in like a million activities with singing and all kinds of other stuff. But I learned a lot from him, and I still use a lot of the skills that I learned from him. And yeah, I would say those are the two main people from the Des Moines area that still influence my thinking and my teaching and my practice.
Excellent. I like that you said Eugene, was it? He wasn't the nicest person, right? It's funny that sometimes the folks who are hard on us and demanding and expect a lot really rise us to our best.
Yeah, I peaked way too soon.
How funny. Your most recent release in 2023, if I have this right, was Songs for Times Like These, featuring
Hmm.
the James Ward Band. And I was
Yeah.
curious, how did your collaboration with them come to be, and how does collaboration play a role in what you do as a musician, as a liberal, as a jazz singer, all these things?
Yeah. Well, I was working with a bass player, Seth Lee, and I needed a drummer. The drummer that I was normally hiring was not available for this gig that I was about to do. And Seth encouraged me to hire Jalen Ward, who was at that time, I think, maybe 18 or 19 years old. And he came to the gig, and his dad came with him and sat next to Jalen. James, the dad, sat next to him and watched the charts, like the sheet music that I have for my songs, and he was just really impressed with what I was doing. And Jalen sounded great and was really easy to work with. And I was like, well, like what am I doing? Just everybody hires these young white guys to play jazz here in Kansas City, and they're great. They're phenomenal. There's no arguing that. I mean, young lions are young lions. They're hungry and they play really well. But I thought, I have this song, got to get the white stuff out. I should live what I preach and I should hire Black musicians. And so um, I asked James and Jalen then to play on the next gig, and they let me know that the mom, Angela, is a fabulous keyboard player, and so I hired her as well. And I went to their house in Grandview and worked with them, um, and it was great. They just love my music and they love my message and they want to record it, and they're totally into it. And the vibe that I got a lot of times from working with the, young white guy musicians in town was just kind of like, yeah, this is cool, whatever. I got another gig I got to play, kind of vibe. Whereas working with the Wards, they were really interested in what I was doing and really wanted to record it. And so I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, yeah, I want to record it too. So we started working on recording it at their house, but I kind of realized that it would be easier to just work with Chad Mize, who I worked with on my first project, and do studio time. And so they came in and they recorded like almost all of the songs in one session, and then we did the last song in a different session because it's a lot harder. It took a little bit more time. But yeah, it didn't take a lot of time to get them on the record, and then I just recorded all the vocals and everything over that, and then it was done. It was easy.
That sounds great. Those projects
Yeah.
can get so long and complicated, so it's lovely to hear that someone's went well.
Oh,
That
it
feels
took
like
a
a
long
blessing.
time.
Oh, it took a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah,
It
I'm
took a
reading
long
there.
time just because of people's schedules and stuff like that, but the actual time in the studio was not that much.
You write openly in your bio about being diagnosed with cancer. So if
Yeah.
you're willing to speak about that, I just want to know, how are you? Like a check-in, and how has this diagnosis changed your perspective on making music and your physical ability to do so?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was diagnosed 7 years ago, and I've been on chemo for 6 of those 7 years. I just had chemo last week, and it kind of kicked my butt. I had a rough last 4 days or so of just being in pain and nausea and stuff like that. But it's you get used to it, and you know it's interesting. There's kind of little blessings about having cancer. Like, I got out of having to pay my student loans, and I get to pursue, working on this nonprofit because I live on disability and I don't have to have a job. Um, things like that that are it's just kind of strange that it would work out that way. Um, but to answer your other questions about, how does it affect my ability to be a musician and work and all of that, it does slow me down. It takes me longer to get through projects and do things than it does other people, because I have lots of days where I can't really do anything, where I'm just not feeling good, and I need to just rest. And but there are other days where I feel mostly normal and I'm able to do, my thing. And I find it is really important to me to to pursue it still, to pursue making music and recording and performing and all of that, because it keeps me going. It's what keeps me alive. It's what
Mhm.
keeps me inspired and motivated. And without it, I feel very directionless. I get very depressed and I become even more inactive and less productive. And it's just not a positive thing for me to not do it. I also sing in the Kansas City Chorale, because of my choral background going back to when I was very young. I don't really know how to live in this world without singing in a choir. Like,
Mhm.
I have to sing in a choir because it's just my home. It's where I feel the most like myself. And yeah, I I don't know if I couldn't do my music, then I would probably be much further along in my disease than I am. I think my music and my ability to keep going and doing things in music helps me stay alive and helps me keep going.
Yes, yes. Thank you, music. Thank you for sharing openly on that.
Yeah.
And thank you for living with the weight of all of it. It appears so graceful and effortless, even though I know there's a lot of effort that goes into it. So let's talk about your newest project, the Golden Spirit Children's Choir. You mentioned being a lifelong choir kid and being involved in choirs forever, and some of the inspiration you found as a young person in these choirs. What is your vision? And tell us more about the Golden Spirit Children's Choir.
Wow. Well, I'm so excited about it. It's like a dream come true. My vision is to have a children's choir in every school in KC Public Schools, after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, let's say, for 2 hours each rehearsal. And for that rehearsal in all of those schools to be administered by a social worker, a music director, and an accompanist. And to have the curriculum of the program include social emotional learning objectives, music learning objectives, and poetry learning objectives. And I've written a year's worth of curriculum to get us started in the fall to pilot at one school in KCMO. And we have a verbal agreement with the district, with the arts coordinator. And we're going to figure out which building we're going to be in. And we're raising money right now. We have a big fundraising event coming up on May 25th at Unity Temple on the Plaza, which will be really an amazing night. It'll be really cool. But yeah, the goal is to heal the children of the city who are experiencing, I hate to say it, but it's true, trauma on a near daily basis. Lots of children have incarcerated parents, exposure to weapons, exposure to drugs, physical, verbal, sexual abuse, bullying, mistreatment, and misunderstanding by teachers and administrators, police in the schools, metal detectors in the schools. I mean, it's not, schools and kids are not what we think of anymore in this country. And kids are going through a lot. And we expect the children to go through all of that and then learn a year's worth of curriculum on top of that. And when you've experienced trauma, your brain activity goes to the back of your brain, and you go kind of in survival mode, and you can't think critically, you can't think creatively, you can hardly take on new information and remember it. So, in order for kids to learn, given this state of affairs that we are in this country, in underserved communities, and people living in poverty, people of color, people that are discriminated against, and all of that, given that situation, we need to move the brain activity to the front of the brain so that kids can still learn given what they're going through every day. And the research shows that rhythm, movement, and mindfulness are the three things that move the brain activity to the front of the brain so that you can think critically and think creatively. So the curriculum for Golden Spirit has a lot of rhythm, movement, and mindfulness. There's journal writing activities. There's uh, um, centering, breathing activities. There's small group sharing. There's lots of music learning activities with rhythm and playing drums and doing movement to music and learning music by feeling it in your body and feeling it in your voice. And yeah, it's a really powerful, it could be a really powerful, really influential, game changing program for Kansas City's children. And I'm really excited about it. And it's it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really a challenge to get all of the funding and support that we need to make it happen. But I think it's worth trying. And um, my mother passed away from COVID in 2020, and I had this idea for Golden Spirit back then and before then, and she told me that I have to pursue it, that I have to make it happen on her deathbed. And I take that very seriously because she was such an active member of her community and did so much to make things better for people in Iowa. And so I feel compelled to use the time and the energy that I do have to make Golden Spirit a reality for kids in Kansas City.
This all sounds amazing, and the thought you're putting into it and behind it is incredible because we hear all the time that music is great for kids learning, but the level of which you're aiming to reach children and help them and help heal their trauma is really important work. Obviously funding, I know you have a fundraiser coming up, but are you looking for interested schools, social workers with experience in music? Like, what kind of team will you need to assemble to have this reach your full vision?
Um, I need social workers and I need music directors. So I'm going to try to pull people from the schools because the schools largely already have those people in place, and encourage them to just stay after school for, very adequate pay, respectable pay from the program. And also making the curriculum really easy to facilitate. So creating the slide presentations for them to use ahead of time so that all I have to do is just go through it with the kids, and they don't have to like do a lot of planning and a lot of extra work outside of that to make it happen, because I know how much time it takes to be a public school teacher, and it's just you don't need to add to that stress.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be a huge undertaking, and it's a really big idea, and maybe it won't happen. Maybe we won't get into every school, and that's fine. But if we get into one or two schools or three or four schools, like the any difference that we can make in kids' lives and show that the program works and encourage other people to adopt it, I think is worth pursuing and worth our time. So that's the
Absolutely.
that's the goal in the short term.
Yeah, it's a big idea, but it's a worthy idea, and eh, poo-poo to small ideas. Like, dream big and hope that lots of things become of it. So there is this fundraising opportunity for those of us who can help contribute financially. You're doing a fundraising and dinner and show at Unity Temple on May 25th. Can you tell us more about what you've got going on for that event?
Yeah, I will be performing the Joni Mitchell Mingus album, which was her like kind of dip into jazz in 1975. And it's a great album. I listened to it when I was like 10 years old, and it's been my favorite record ever since. And it has an immeasurable influence on me musically. It just kind of is a part of me. And I'm so excited to share it with everyone because it's just such amazing music, and I got a really good band. Forrest Stewart is like is Kansas City's own Jaco Pastorius in my opinion, and so he's playing the bass and laying that down. And Patrick Ketter is a huge part of this project. He's playing saxophone, but he's also the treasurer on the board of Golden Spirit, and very helpful with all of the things that we're doing for this event. And Angela Ward from the recording is playing keyboard. Adam Schlossman is on guitar, and Matt Leifer's on drums. Sarah Anderson is catering the event. It's not actually dinner; it's going to be foods, curated foods. So like a really beautiful, immense, crazy cool charcuterie platter at every table, and then cocktails and wine and dessert. And she's she's an amazing caterer and an amazing singer. Oh my God, she's probably like the best singer in town, but she's catering our event. And what else do we have? Oh, we have a silent auction, and we have artworks being donated by Peregrine Honig, David Ford, Ryan Wilkes, Mike. I can't remember his last name. He's from Austin. He's a connect from someone on my board. And then Jenna Bauer and Brent O'Connor have all donated works of art. And we have other items up for auction as well, like a massage and a boat ride on the Missouri River, and Kansas City historical tours, and all kinds of stuff. So,
Nice.
yeah.
That sounds like it'll be a really tasty event
Yeah.
all around and for a great cause. Again, that's Saturday, May 25th at 7 p.m. at Unity Temple on the Plaza. We'll put information in the description so people can find out more about the event before and even if they're watching this after.
Great.
Well, aside from this amazing project, the Golden Spirit Children's Choir, and this upcoming fundraising event, what's next for you, or what are you looking forward to, just as a final thought?
I'm looking forward to just continuing to be a part of the scene in Kansas City. I'm so lucky to be here amongst such a great community and great musicians and great people, and I just want to be a part of the magic that happens here and continue to perform and bring the project Golden Spirit to fruition, and really help Kansas City's children in over the next several years, hopefully. So
Awesome. We love those goals. We're so excited to see what happens and support Golden Spirit Children's Choir. Thank you for joining us for the interview and for being our March Artist of the Month. We'll be watching and sharing all the work you do. Thank you, Erin.
thank you so much, Danielle. It was a pleasure.